BananaSlamJaron.
Welcome everybody, welcome Cr1t. We got ourselves another episode of the BananaSlamJaron podcast, and yeah, as I've already mentioned, and you can already see, we've got Cr1t with us today. How you doing, man? So you had a long stream today?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I've had a lot of long streams recently, so it's not that new to me anymore. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, you've been killing it with streaming lately.
Yeah, it's getting like it's getting a little bit too regular for me. Like I'm getting a little bit too used to it, but yeah.
Yeah, that's has its pluses and minuses for sure. So I was gonna base my first question for you as off the stream I was watching today. So well, you're one of the most notable players I've watched, where I'm like, I tune into your stream and you'll just play 50 games of Clinks in a row, or like, you know, I see you're higher level on Dota plus Troll Warlord than I am. Like you play more Troll than I do, and I saw you were talking about learning Morphling today and everything. So I was wondering, like, when does it dawn upon you to just spam the shit out of a hero or just practice a new hero in general?
That's a hard question actually. I mean, it's not something that that I really think about actively. I think it's just if I want to win, like I have to have some core that I go to, and that's how it started with Troll. So for me, it's like it just happens based on the patch. Like, what hero do I feel like playing in this patch? And then if I find it really fun, like I did with Troll, like I played like 150 games of Troll in like a month or something, and then after that I just stopped caring for Troll completely for like a year, and then it came back for my 11k, so that was nice. But it just happens in like patches, like what I think is interesting, and then also that will make me able to carry a game if it's like really high MMR. So it was the same for Troll and Clinks, sort of. They just fit my playstyle, I guess. Like they were both heroes that could hit buildings and roach and stuff, so it was easy for me to like command my team.
Does personal enjoyment come into account when you're like, you know, deciding on heroes, or do you just play what you think is, you know, broken at the time?
No, I usually care more about my own experience with a hero than with like what is generally conceived like as broken or whatever. Like like back when basically like nobody was playing Troll at that point, you know, and I was like talking to a Tor about it or something, and I remember playing like my first Troll game and it was awful, you know, and it was just fun to me, you know, because there's some interesting aspect about this. You can't control your ulti, and like you have to be, it's actually like you have to think about it a lot more than what the skill set really tells, you know. Like it seems really simple, but a lot of players will like use their ulti really poorly or like have bad map movement and stuff. But yeah, that was just like interesting to me for some reason for like a month, and then after that I was like, okay, I'm done with this. So yeah, it just depends what I feel like. It's very random. Like I wouldn't be able to say it like reading a patch note or anything. It's just a feel.
Yeah.
I've kind of realized that too. Like all of a sudden one day I'm like, well, I feel like I couldn't win this game. I was given 10th pick or, you know, later on pick in the draft, and I feel like I couldn't win the game unless I had this hero in my repertoire, and that immediately motivates me personally to just spam the shit out of it. So I was curious. It sounds like your motivations are somewhat similar, just to win. You know, we don't play Dota for fun at the end of the day. So I was kind of curious.
I kind of do.
Okay, Monkeys plays Dota for fun. It got him farther than me, but we'll go off of the success rate of Cr1t here for what is the optimal way to.
It's a good thing. It's good to find a balance, I think. I mean, I definitely would not play like heroes that I don't find interesting. You know, like I think most players, they pick a role where the most heroes are like interesting to them to play. Yeah. So for me, that was like I like playing most of the 4 heroes. Obviously, there's some heroes that I don't like playing, and I will still have to practice them. Like at some point if I want to play it competitively and if it's in meta. But most of the time, you play some hero you want to play, you know. But if you have to find like heroes that are not in your role, like if you're a support player and you're playing high MMR pops, like you have to have some cores in your arsenal, otherwise you're just gonna lose most games, you know. If you just play some random anti-mage, like if I played anti-mage randomly or terribly, like I would lose every game. So that's like for me, it's like interesting to learn one hero that nobody plays in a different role and they try to master it. So that's what I did with like both Troll and Clinks. So I definitely find it fun more than just like I have fun at first, and then I want it to become good. You know, I want to make it.
And then it turns into like determination. Like you got to prove it, right? Like...
Yeah, exactly. I was on Clinks for so long. At some point, like I was like, nobody was touching the hero, you know. And I was so convinced that these heroes had like a lot of potential. I was like telling Ator this hero's good. I told like that has to be it had to be Abed, I guess. Yeah, it was Abed. That's like around COVID situation, so
Yeah.
I did. But I was like telling everyone this hero's actually good. Ator always tells me like no way, you know. When I tell him something about a carry hero, Ator's always like no way, unless it's like anti-mage or something. Like there's
Unless
no
that
way.
hero hits creeps at a rapid pace. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure
and that's usually not the heroes I go for. So yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely much more of a playmaker. You just run around nonstop. I noticed.
Yeah, so like even if I'm hitting like if I play heroes at auto attack, I like the heroes to be like hitting buildings or roche or like heroes, you know, like with flanks.
Yeah.
I don't really like to be hitting ancients too much. So yeah, I think me and Ator are a little bit different there. So when I like suggest heroes to him, he's just like no way, there's no chance.
The one thing that I thought was interesting was that you mentioned already. You kind of helped me segue my next question, which was like I see you practicing cores a lot as a support player, and for you, is that purely just because you're high MMR and you're stuck like you'd rather play core than support like a rank 500 carry player, or is it because you genuinely think like learning core roles is better for you as a player, like your understanding of the game or helping support your cores, that kind of thing?
I mean, I think it's a lot of things, and it changes all the time. Like I wouldn't be able to tell you that for my entire career I've been thinking this way about practicing and stuff because it changes all the time. Like what you think about how do you maximize your time. I think for me, I think it's always good to be just a better Dota player, and even if you play like other roles, you're gonna be a better Dota player than like if you only play your own role. Like it's fine. You can be like a better player by just playing 4 every game, but I think it's fine to like if you're getting bored or if the game is becoming stale or like you're losing a lot because like for me when I'm like close to 11 KMR, if I play 4 every game, like I will lose 50% of the games just because of my cores. Like, and that's kind of like it's not very fun to be wasting like a lot of time every day because you're forced to like rely on your cores. So it's like a mix of things. I wouldn't say when I played troll, like I played a lot of troll like the last 2 weeks and some live steers and stuff. You know, I don't really play it to learn or like to become a better player. It's mainly just because I wanted to win, and it's not like from a competitive aspect. It's not like me trying to get better or like learning something about the role that much. It's more like just playing heroes that I understand that I know I can win the game with, basically. And it
Well,
depends. Like sometimes, like my ambition is like to win and get MMR, and sometimes I play you know, I'm just playing the game for fun and like I want to learn a hero. That's how it started with Troll and Clinks. But like now, the last 2 weeks, I was really trying hard to just win the games. So it was a little bit different.
at least from a competitive aspect, though, like playing other roles, it gives you a better idea of kind of what you can expect from those roles, right? Like in competitive games, like you understand farming patterns and stuff for carry players more if you play 50 games of carry because like you're in the mindset of a carry player then, right? So then when you're playing position 4 and competitive, like you can kind of have a better idea of like predicting what the enemy wants to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think so for sure. But I think most of the time people understand like the heroes.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously, there's like for me, like the last couple of days, I was playing Morph, and I had no idea how to play this hero. But even if when I'm playing the hero, I have no idea like mechanically what I'm doing. I still like understand the concept. I just you know. So I think I agree with it, but I think it also at some point like you get to the point where like you feel like you know most of the stuff. It's more like implementing, I guess. And like some heroes, it's really hard to implement if you're not used to it. Like, yeah.
Does streaming like affect you at all with this? Because I know you've been streaming a lot lately, a lot because of like COVID and lack of tournaments. But like, does it make you hesitant to practice heroes if you know you're not going to look like you're in peak form or anything like that? Or are you kind of just at the point where you don't give a shit because you kind of have enough proof or like clout, I guess you could say?
I'm not sure actually about that. I think obviously the thing I like about streaming that I realized the last month or two is that when you stream, like you always feel like you're on. Like you feel like you have to you have to be at your best basically because you're basically putting yourself out there. Like it's your brand. Like you're on. People are watching you play, and it's kind of like playing tournaments. Like it's like a mini tournament aspect sort of like it makes you stay on your toes and like makes you want to perform in pubs even if you're like playing heroes you don't understand or like So it's just like it's a motivation for me to be playing like on stream, and I don't really feel like I don't feel like reading chat and like being like annoyed at what chat says. Like it's really rare that I think chat is being so stupid that it gets to me. So it's been like a positive for me to just like make sure that I perform at like, or like stay on my toes and like not become like embarrassingly bad at like what I'm putting out, you know.
I wish I could
Um,
say the same thing. You know, I usually I'm the master at doing embarrassingly bad things on stream. But hey, you know, everyone has their brand.
yeah, that
Um,
works too, I guess.
thanks, man. I appreciate the pity there. I was what I wanted to ask, like before, you just kind of made me want to ask that question specifically. But like, how do you decide when to stream? Is it just like that day you feel like it, or do you actually plan ahead your streams, or is it just kind of opportunity based?
I mean, I started just streaming because we have no schedule, right? And I figured that this is like a good opportunity to like use my time on something else in Dota that where I have like an everyday plan of like it's like basically like working, because if I was not streaming right now, I would basically be sitting doing nothing but playing Dota for no reason, you know. Like streaming gives me like a purpose. If I'm not practicing and playing tournaments, like I prefer to be productive in some way, and I think streaming is like the best way for that. In terms of like planning streams and stuff, not that much, because I feel like I prefer to just like tell my viewers that I want to stream every day and that I plan on streaming the next day. But if like something comes up with my parents or something, I want to go visit them, that I'll still do it. You know, I don't want to like log myself into like schedule too much, because it is like not my job, but something I want to do. So I keep it like in the middle. I think it's not like I'm on a schedule, but I'm trying to be as much online as possible because I do have a lot of off time right now.
Okay.
Are you at least enjoying streaming for
Oh
the
yeah,
time
for
that you are
sure.
doing it? Nice.
Yeah, I love streaming right now. I think it's interesting too to like, because I at the start of my stream, like when I'm streaming at the same time as Score, because we have like the same time schedule pretty much most of the time. Like I just see my viewers being around like 1 to 2,000, and I mean that's fine for me. You know, at first, like at the start of September, you know, I'm just streaming. I know people don't really know that I'm streaming and stuff, but then like when I see my numbers grow and stuff, it's just an interesting aspect.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's nice to see that it's going somewhere. So
What's that like? No, I'm just kidding. So, I was gonna ask like, cause for me, my streaming, I feel like when I'm tilted, it makes it worse. So I was wondering like, when you're streaming, you know, you say you enjoy streaming. Do you feel like the ups and downs are higher, or do you really feel like your attitude in game is relatively unaffected? Because you seem calm about Twitch chat. The example I want to give from today was a guy that asked a really stupid question, and you responded like, I built Midas because I was bored, man. Like that game was terrible. And he's like, and he said sorry, and you're like, it's okay, man. Like, you know, that game wasn't your fault. And I feel like
I
for me,
mean,
I would not have the it's okay, man. It's not your fault. It's like I feel like I'm more irritable. Like, does that get to you in your game itself, or
no. I mean, if I'm really trying to win, like I wouldn't read chat in game, you know. If I'm like really trying hard and I feel like my decisions are like better than what anyone in chat would say, like if I'm trying my hardest, I'm pretty sure that's the case. If I'm playing my best heroes and I'm trying hard, like I'm
I
pretty sure
I'd
nobody in chat
imagine
will like,
so.
yeah. So like then like I
there's some
don't really
10K
look.
people in your chat. I'm just
I
saying.
mean, then it doesn't really matter. But if I'm playing like A and I'm kind of just I random the hero and I have no interest in playing the hero, you know, I'm just in the game waiting for it to be over, and that's just what it is, you know. And somebody asks like, "Is Midas the item?" Like, I can see why it's funny, because like because I don't know if it's the item and I don't really care, and I'm pretty sure they don't care either. They just want to fuck with me. So it's like you let them have it a little bit. I think that's fine.
Oh, that's a good
Um,
point, actually. I honestly never thought about that. If I'm like playing
yeah,
a
I
hero I'm
mean,
not that great at, maybe taking Twitch chat suggestions for face value might actually be beneficial.
yeah, it's more like you have to realize that most of the people that ask like questions like that, they're not. I mean, at least in my chat, they're not trying to like tell me what's better. They just want to make me mad, you know, or like get some reaction. I think that's a lot of Twitch, like just trying to.
That
They want to get some
definitely is a
reaction out of
lot of
it.
Twitch.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think I would. At least from what I remember, I was never really like tilted while streaming. And I think if I was ever tilted, where like I would be like mad at my chat, or like I would seem like really bitter, I think I would just stop my stream. You know. I just don't. I it doesn't really happen to me that often, but I think if it did happen, like I don't think I would want to like stream it, because that's just like the way I am as a person. Like I don't want to tilt, like I don't want to in tournament games either. Like it's like something I don't want to have in me. So I just don't think I would stream it. I guess like it wouldn't be on stream. I would just turn my stream off or something.
See, I'm very similar to you in that aspect, and but like I also have basically nothing to do right now. So when I do get tilted, I'm just like, well, do I turn off my stream and be tilted off stream and do like nothing, or do I just keep streaming because I have nothing else to do?
I mean, I think for me, it's more like it's really rare that I tilt for like a
Yeah,
long
yeah,
duration of time. Like I'm able to reset myself at this point, especially about pubs.
yeah. Yeah.
It sounds like
I
Which
mean,
is a very powerful tool to have. Like a
yeah,
lot of
sure.
people are not good at resetting after
yeah,
pubs.
it almost sounds like to me you're like more I want to say well-rounded and like grounded about how you approach streaming, even though you don't stream as much as a lot of other streamers. And I'm curious if people, you talk about getting mad, and if you ever were to do that, you'd probably just end the stream. Have you ever been asked for advice by people like Mason?
I mean, I think Mason has pretty good control over his stream. Like, I don't think like, I mean, personally, I think a lot of it is like a persona. Like he's you can see like he's smiling like when he's malting half the time. So I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's just different approaches. I love watching Mason. Like Mason is like one of the streams I watch the most when I'm not streaming myself, just because it's like really good entertainment. Like, and obviously some of it is like real, like when he smashes his monitor and stuff. Like,
that's
like,
actually
you're
why I
not gonna
quoted
fake
this
that.
one
But that's
specifically.
but
'Cause
that's
it's
that's just good because like it means that he's real. So I mean, yeah, I don't think anyone's ever asked me about it. I mean, obviously, I it's something that I've been practicing, especially in like competitive too, to not be like very emotional, because being emotional in like a team environment, and it's just best not to have too many people that are like that, at least.
for sure.
And also like emotional, it kind of goes hand in hand with like ego, and it's just, yeah. I mean, it's a hard thing to really touch on too much, but I think it's just so you have to have players on a team that's like grounded and just don't like um act up
Don't
too
re-
much.
yeah,
I mean, it's not
don't react. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So for me, for sure, I'm not perfect at that, and I definitely had episodes where I lashed out or I was really mad. But it's something that I want to be. So it's something I practice all the time in competitive too, and I think that's why it's like that on stream as well.
Awesome. I'm leading on my monkeys. Do you have a question? Because I'm like going through my nice list of questions, and it's hilarious because he's segueing me perfectly. But if you have something to weigh
No,
in,
no. I'm good for now.
okay. So, like, I just want to say I appreciate the depth of your answers. I never know what to expect whenever I'm like asking people questions, and I've thoroughly enjoyed your answers so far. And the one question I wanted to make sure I asked, because monkeys has been one of the most notable NA stand-ins. There's a lot of teams that he stands in for, so I feel like we've got the perfect dynamic here. I was going to ask you about like what it's like being a player on the team that gets stand-ins. Like, you guys have had to play with a lot of stand-ins on EG ever since COVID. Like, how does that like affect your approach to the team, like the mentality of the team, the strategy of the team, the best you can? Obviously we're not asking for deep dark secrets or
Yeah.
anything like that.
I mean, it sucks, to be honest. Like, no matter like who you have as a stand-in, like at this point, we've come to realize that it's just not a good situation. We had like times last season, I guess, where we were playing with Quinn as well. Like, and like it doesn't really matter. Like, Quinn was a great stand-in. We made the grand finals of a LAN tournament, but it sucks to have a stand-in. It's like everything that you talk about as a team. Like, you have to reset it when you get in a new person, and like in terms of like the level you play at as a team, it's always gonna like set you down. It can do some things in terms of like people feeling like you have like you have that reset, right? Like you feel like you're playing with a new person. It's like kind of a new team. You have this tournament. It's kind of like everyone is just chill. Like, it's not that much pressure because you have a stand-in. So there's like some positives, but in terms of like purely competitively and like team, uh, like, what's the word for it? Like, just like level of play, it's just worse. And I think we started out with 747 in this, like when we started playing with stand-ins, and we won like the first 2 or 3 tournaments, and then after that, like we kind of staled down a little bit. And I think the reason why we were winning was because like we were playing with a new player, and like we had no like real high expectations. But at some point when we won like the first 3 tournaments, like there's more pressure on us, and it just became worse, you know. And then obviously like I had to play often for a while. That was pretty awful too. And yeah, I mean, we played with GPK, who's like an awesome player. Honestly, everyone was super positively impressed by him, and like worked really hard, had a great mindset. But still, it's just different for him to come into a team where there's so much like focus from like Reddit and Twitter and stuff. Like people will just like go hard on him, even though he's just being like a good team player.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these things like come into play and like make people play worse, makes like everyone else on the team like try to compensate for. It's just not great, you know. So
Well,
it takes some time to get integrated into a team like EG. I think because there's a lot of like negative feedback that you have to kind of get used to. It also goes the other way, you know. Obviously, if we're winning, like people are quick to hype us up and stuff, but it can be pretty hard to deal with. Yeah.
yeah, at least from the stand-ins perspective, because as you
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
PSJ, I've stood in for a lot. A lot of the difficulties, at least in my opinion, is that like when you're going into a new team, is a lot of teams have different play styles and different ideas and like different map movements that they try to accomplish. And you know, when you're kind of thrown into an already established like idea or play style or whatever, then you're kind of the one who has to like adjust yourself to fit in with like the players and all of their ideas and everything. And as Crit said, like there can be a lot of negative feedback of just like, oh yeah, you shouldn't be doing this because this is our idea. Like you know, the 5 minute siege or 10 minute siege or 4 minute rune or you know whatever. Like, and it can definitely just make things very hectic.
I mean, I think it's also about like, I mean, it's a lot about system, but also that um like when you hear like, imagine if you come into like our team and then Boba is saying something like, GPK is like a very new player, like he really just wanted to do his best, you know. But sometimes when like Boba or me or Toro like will tell him something, it's gonna be like wrong in some of the cases, you know.
Yeah,
And he might still implement it just because he wants to do like what's the team, you know. And that takes a while to like become comfortable with playing with
yeah,
each other
yeah,
and stuff. And that's like the biggest difference, I think,
for sure.
with playing like a regular and a standard.
So like when you have a stand-in, I think specifically the one I'd be most curious about is when you guys have Bulba stand-in for you, because it's like obviously he goes from your coach slash like helping you with drafting and stuff to being a player on your team. How does he as a person change? Like, do you guys feel like your relationship with him changes during that, or is it kind of just the same shit and suddenly he's the guy actually playing the hero, just worse than the other guy, or what?
Uh, I mean, with Boba, it's a little bit different because he it changes a lot, like when he's playing pubs and when he's not playing pubs. So when we started playing with him, like obviously he was getting back into shape and stuff. But I think it's easier for us to play with somebody who understands the way we think, even if we don't understand the way he thinks in the game. Like we're not used to playing with him. He knows like the way we want to play, and like he knows it's easier for him to come in than for other players to come in, basically. Even if it for us it might be like sort of the same thing, like we have a new player that we're not used to playing with. Even if he's our coach, like he's very different in style from like somebody like Ramses. So I think the way it works is just that it was easier for him to come in and stand in than it was for the other guys. But for us, it's like it's still a new player, you know.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So obviously he knows the system, and it's easier for him to like understand what everyone else wants to do.
I Yeah, I myself, I always felt like a lot of the teams I was on, it felt like the team basically had to make sure everyone was on the same level of understanding. So if like one player was weaker than the other, or if one player was missing a point, then it felt like the rest of the team kind of had to put themselves on hold in order to catch that person back up. So I guess going off of what I've already asked and what you've kind of said, is that how it feels with a stand-in? Like the kind of the shift of the team has to be completely upon catching this guy up, and does that kind of hinder the progress of the team to a complete halt, or do you guys just kind of accept that you're not going to progress as a team? You know what I mean?
I mean, I know what you mean. I think it's just a lot more responsibility on the original members of the team, basically. You know, so if somebody else like is playing under their usual level of gameplay. Like if let's say like me or Toro, like when we have a stand and we play worse than we usually do, like that's gonna look a lot worse when we have a stand in, And there's also gonna be less room to like improve on it because we already have like a topic of like where we want growth or like integration into the team. So I think, yeah, I mean, it's a lot more responsibility on like the regular members. I would say that's basically the biggest thing.
Okay. Uh, so I guess for me, this is kind of like dipping back to our original conversation, but you talked about it a bit with how you approach your stream and how you approach pubs, but I feel like everyone I've ever asked has a different answer to this question. And it would be, how do you like remain sane playing Dota 8 to 10 hours a day? Like, what is your method of like, is it outside of Dota? Is it within the game things you're telling yourself? Like, what do you think is your secret, quote unquote, to not losing your mind? Because I think that's a common side effect of a lot of Dota.
Um, yeah, that's a hard question. I mean, obviously, I don't think it's anything that I think about, but um, most of the time it's just about mindset. I think like alternating your mindset, like what are you playing each individual game for? When you get into the game, like what is your purpose? Like, are you trying really hard every game? Because if you're trying really hard every game, putting your like all in to the game, and you lose and you lose and you lose, like that's when you're gonna start losing your mind. And I think like if you're doing that and you're losing, like you have to take breaks like more frequently and ask yourself before you queue, like, is it a good idea to play right now? Like, is if I'm gonna try really hard, then am I gonna win this game or am I too tilted? Because then if you go into this game and you feel like you're trying really hard but you're tilted out and your mentality is bad, then you're just gonna get like even further down the hole. And for me, it's just I think it's not very often that I really try super hard. Like I will do it if like I'm trying to work on if I'm practicing for like a tournament or like I was now when I was trying to get 11K, like I was trying really hard. And if I lost 4 games in a row, like I would stop my stream, like because I know if I don't want to play anymore, like it's already a bad day. If I play another game, I'm gonna be in a bad mindset. Like I would just have to stop. And I had some days too in the start of my stream where I I was losing a lot, and I still like I felt like I wanted to keep streaming because I had like good numbers, whatever. And it was a little bit early for me to end the stream, and I kept playing, and obviously I kept losing, because I'm not supposed to be playing, but I'm doing it because I'm streaming, right? So I think it's just about priorities. I would say. I think it's not something that happens to me too much because if I'm feeling like I'm going down that hole, like I will stop playing.
Yeah,
So.
and as far as like resetting goes, I mean, you've obviously been competing for such a long time. Have you created any good habits over the years of like, for example, something I learned or that I've been practicing since the Paris major on complexity last year, I think. Is just like, after a tough loss or something, instead of just immediately jumping in discussing it or whatever with the team. But I think it does apply to pubs as well. Just like, stand up from your computer, go take a 5 minute walk or something, and just like clear your head and come back and like, reset your mentality. Are there any like micro rules like that you've come up with over the years? Or
No, I think for me the biggest thing is like, and this is gonna maybe come out a little bit bad, but like if I'm in a game where I know the game is over, or like basically like there's some games where you just know there's no chance, like somebody's not playing the game, like you use the last like 10 minutes of the game it takes for the other team to end, where you're still like playing but you know it's kind of over, to
yeah.
like lower your emotional investment into the game. And then you're kind of already on the way to the next game, and it's going to sound really bad, but that's really how it is. Like
Hmm.
if I'm trying really hard in my games and somebody like is not like, if I know somebody doesn't listen to me, or if somebody's like not trying their hardest, or like it's not like, and the game is just over because of that, then you have to kind of reset. You
Yeah.
can't keep emotionally investing into these games, because if you do that and you keep doing it like every game and you keep losing, like that's gonna drain you out like
Yeah. Yeah.
really fast. So obviously, like if there's this is like really rare. Like you do it if you're like you have some guy who's griefing your game, like running down mid, or if you have some carrier player who's like dying 10 times in 20 minutes, not really talking, like it's over, but
Yeah.
you're still playing, he's still playing, but you're just waiting for the other team to realize they can end the game.
Yeah.
So
The
yeah.
one thing I've always liked about your stream was that you always seem like one of the people I've watched. I've never seen you be upset in a situation where I personally wouldn't find myself upset. Like all of your reasons for being upset are, at least, in my opinion, very valid. So I guess like my question would be, do you feel like others learn from you in that? Like, have you noticed that you have some sort of impact on the Dota community at all, or do you feel like your viewers are impacted by your mentality? Because I think the way you keep a level head in game is impressive, to say the least, based on the higher MMR you go, the worse your teammates get.
I mean, I think I have like bad days or bad games where I'm like not a very good example. Like I definitely catch myself in being like really shitty or toxic, whatever. It happens once in a while. But I do think that in general, people learn from like the way I talk in game, and the way like basically like I diffuse like people being mad or whatever. Like I think it's easier for me to win games if nobody else is really talking, because if everyone else is talking, like there's no space for somebody to like come in with like there's a lot of different people, especially in pubs, who will be like very emotional or like very like they're not trying to be toxic, they're trying to win the game, but the way they communicate is like not very efficient. And that's like most of the games that I will lose, is if somebody's being like that and I can't change like the pace of the game because somebody else is already taking over like the not the captain role, but like the voice of the team basically. um but I do think, at least from like the response, I guess, on my stream, uh, like people are mostly like I'm not one of the most like talented or like individual best mechanical players in the world, but I like to think like the way I win my pops is because I am able to talk to my team. Like I understand like what's going on in the game, and I know how to win these pops. And I think that's what people are impressed with when they watch me, more than just like me doing some crazy like rampage and live there with armored toggle. Like that's not like not really how I win my games. So I think, yeah, I think you could kind of put it in that category. I don't know if that was like answering your question completely, but
It was a different answer than I expected, but I honestly have enjoyed your
In-depth answers.
in-depth, yes, basically comments on various things. I was so like what I was kind of hearing from that was like, okay, so one of my issues I've always struggled with, or I used to struggle with a lot, and I think I've gotten better, but I haven't been on team, so I wouldn't really know. Is I was definitely one of those people that wasn't intending to be toxic, and there would be communication that I had with that was just detrimental to the game, kind of like you were talking about. So I guess do you have any advice or like ways that people can avoid being those people? Because I know there are people in the Dota community that are trying not to be toxic, and sometimes they still are. So like I've always tried to explain it on my stream. I'm like, this guy, I understand. I have to mute him. He's not an ass. Like I'll unmute him at the end of the game, but like I can't focus on this game. Like, do you have advice for those types of people?
I mean, I think it's just about if you really care about the results of the game. That's usually like why it happens. Like somebody really wants to win, and something happens in the game that's bad. Like if you comment on something that already happened, like you have to make sure you say it in a nice way. Otherwise, it's just gonna come out like you're flaming the guy. Like if some guy does something stupid, you're like, let's try not to do that again. Like it's just about tone. It's about like making sure that you understand that the player you're playing with is probably already like upset or knows that they fucked up. you know and if you don't like take that into consideration, like he's just gonna get more tilted, and the chance of like them muting you and then like the whole communicating what's going on in the game is like gone, at that point. um it's kind of hard for me to say. For me, it's pretty natural. Like obviously, if I don't care that much about the game and I'm being like an ass, and this happens a lot more off stream than on stream, because when I'm on stream, I don't want to come out like an asshole. But everyone who plays Dota like as much as like as we do, like you're gonna be an asshole like once in a while. It's just what happens. Like you get
It's the
frustrated.
nature of the game.
Yeah, and also if you're competitive about it, it will just happen. But it's just about like minimizing the amount of times that it does happen, I think, and working on it. And yeah, I
Whenever
guess
I
that's all.
whenever I watch Monkeys or Gunner, they're like the two NA people that come to mind. I'm just waiting for them to crack, man. I'm waiting for them to finally lose their shit and be the guy that I've always envisioned them being, instead of just the chill, laughing guy like Monkeys is giving right now. It has to be a facade eventually. I don't freaking believe it. But so my question is, like after all that's said and done, I feel like the cool thing about having these conversations with you is myself and everyone watching gets to have these like perspectives on Dota and just everyday Dota things. That's kind of like what we're going for with the podcast. So it's like, do you think that this should, like, more players should stream? Like, do you recommend to other players that they stream, or do you think it's kind of just like something you're good at, so it's nice for you? I feel like it's a beneficial thing for the community, like as a whole. And there's like no other game that I can think of where that many competitive players of that noteworthy level of fame just don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no negative to streaming. I think obviously it's like a lot of people just don't like streaming that much. Like it does feel awkward at first, like to stream and being on camera, or like not on camera, but like being watched while you play. Like it's it's hard for some people, you know. And I think I would say it's, for me, the reason why I did started doing it like all the time is that I feel like it's good practice for tournaments. Like I feel like it's like the second best thing you can do. It creates some pressure on you. There is pressure when you play tournaments. Like you have to be used to it. So streaming for me helps with that. And I think I said that to Artur as well. Like I think he should stream, you know, because like it's just, it gives like an aspect that creates a bit more pressure. So I think even if you're like, you obviously it's good to get content into the community, but just from a competitive standpoint, it doesn't matter that much for most people to create content and like getting it out in the community. Like I like doing it, and I think it should be done, but for most pro players, like they're thinking about their competitive aspect. I think streaming can also help with that, just in terms of like creating like more pressure on your pups. So yeah.
That's interesting. I've never heard the aspect of you thinking that streaming could be positive for competitive players, because I've always thought of the stigma kind of being like, it adds another factor to the game that's distracting. I naturally play worse on stream, so it makes it detrimental to my competitive side.
Yeah,
So
but
I think that's really
why?
cool.
But I think like, why do people play worse on stream? You know, for me now, I don't feel like I play worse on stream anymore than I used to think that. But I think you need to think about, why is it that I'm playing worse when I'm on stream? Because realistically, when you play tournaments, it's the same thing as streaming, because you have people watching you. You feel like there's Twitch chat, but there's the same things when you play big tournaments. You know, there's Twitch chat, there's Reddit, there's all these things. So I think when people realize that it's the same thing, like you shouldn't really play worse on stream. You know, and I think that's just helpful. Obviously, like you can say before big tournaments, like for me, when I get closer to a tournament, like I wouldn't want to stream either, or I would stream very casually, like not talking much and just playing whatever. But now, like when I have a while until my tournament, like I don't see a problem with just like trying my hardest and like trying to get better and see if like streaming can help me in that way, basically.
The funniest thing about this whole perspective, that I don't know if this happens to you guys a lot, but suddenly something that's been happening to you for a while, and then it just suddenly occurs to you when somebody else talks about it, like why it's happening. But you talked about how like it's similar pressure to being competitive and like being in a stadium with people watching you and stuff. And like, why can't that be the same as streaming? But for me, I streamed most of my career, and then like my first international that I was casting at, I go out onto the main stage and I just shit my pants. I'm like, holy crap, But at the end of the day, there's really not that many more people in that stadium itself than would normally watch a stream. And so I find that so funny, where it's like there's a lot of players, I'm sure, that you said have that initial hesitation towards being a streamer, but I realized pretty quickly, just like you did, that it is pretty much the same thing. And like after a few initial takes, it's like, yeah, you're just back in your comfort zone doing your own thing. So I can relate to that on so many levels that I wasn't expecting to be able to relate to. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
Not even asking a question right now.
I mean, I will say though that like going on stage and doing interviews, like I don't really compare that in terms of like pressure and like, because I like when I do interviews on stage and stuff, like I still get fucking nervous. Like I think most people do in some way. Like that shit is hard, especially at like where there's actually a crowd. But I think just in terms of like, just going back on it, like when you're streaming and you're actually in the game, like when you're in the game on a stage, like you don't think about the crowd that much, but you still have like the back thought that people are watching, you know. So I'm just talking about like specifically in the game type of scenario, I think streaming is like sort of similar to playing in tournaments, like
Yeah, you have
in
to
the
filter out the
actual
bullshit.
game.
You have to filter out all
Yeah.
the extra stuff that isn't just you playing the game of Dota.
Yeah,
No, I get it.
and to kind of go off of what you said, VSJ, of like the nerves of doing interviews and stuff in front of a stadium, it's like, for example, with me when we first started doing this podcast, I was super nervous because I typically don't really talk about my thoughts on Dota that much on my stream. I just kind of like meme with my chat and play Dota and laugh a lot.
Last pick,
That's
broodmother.
typically all I do. But like I don't really like share my thoughts like or at least not in an elaborate fashion too frequently. So when we started the podcast, and you started asking me a lot of like more in-depth questions, I was like, oh shit, I actually have to share my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong on something I'm saying or something like that. It can really I don't know, it can be very nervous putting your ideas out there.
Okay.
Or nerve-wracking, sorry, that's what I meant to say.
Yeah, no, it definitely can. I'm always surprised when I see certain players, even like Cr1t today. Like, I'm like, how do they just come on like and just give interviews? I guess you guys give a lot of interviews or whatever, because I'm the same way. Like the second I went on stage, the second I do my first interview, I remember my first summit. I'm like, just stumbling, fumbling all over the place. But if you don't mind, Cr1t, before we wrap it up here, we have a content submission that we wanted to do and we're going to try out, where it's somebody submitting a clip about 2 minutes long, and it's on you and Monkeys to guess the MMR of the game. Are you down?
Okay. I've done this before. I can do
Okay,
it. Yeah.
very cool. Okay, so let me pull that up real quick. Okay, so what we got is we're going to be showing, you see the status in the game, 35 minutes in. We're going to show the items of all the heroes in the game, and then we're going to watch about a minute clip of a team fight and see what you guys think.
Like
okay,
in the mech on Ogre.
First try. So we got Mana Boots mech on Ogre. I don't think there's really much multicasting going on here. We do have a platinum, or level 25 Dota Plus Pudge on the other team. Let's not forget that. What do you think of these items on Cr1t? 35 minutes. Cr1t?
I mean, I think who has the mech?
That's
Necro?
Necro. Yeah, that's
wait,
Necro.
is that two mechs? Is
that is two mechs.
Ogre?
You're right.
Okay,
that was
Necro
two mechs.
And Ogre.
Those are
Okay,
reasonable rounds. Go ahead.
I would say honestly, there's like nobody. Who's this? This is Prophet.
Yeah, that was Prophet.
Okay, Prophet has a Yasha. Is there anything for Manta to be good against?
Slaughter ult.
Slaughter.
What about these shaman items?
Okay.
Or Shadow.
And 4 empty slots.
That's a cool build. Slark. I mean, most of these builds are acceptable, I would say. Like the Ogre has like Arcane's mech. I guess that's a good +5.
Yeah,
like I wish my Ogre would buy that.
But double mech on
I mean, that could be an accident.
It could be. But also
now we got the play.
Shadow Blade Mana Boots on Rasta.
I mean, Rasta might be the lowest MMR in this game.
He's setting it up. He's setting it up. Look at this roster. He's coming in hot. Invis. It's all about that surprise.
I mean, Shellblade's not bad on Rasta, but like that item order maybe a little bit inferiors. I mean, Drow has like competitive items, like to Wraith Bands, Manta, Pike, to BKB. That's pretty good. It's like at a Silver Ridge Abyssal, that's also pretty good. Yeah. Necro, maybe the face boots are a little bit outdated, but
this looks like a pretty standard fight so far to me. What could possibly go interestingly here?
Okay, Slaughter's a bit deep here. Pudge is also in there. Okay. But Slark is going in too. Oh boy.
You guys were doubting the Yasha Nature's Prophet. I don't know why.
Oh my god, this hero. Okay, I mean, that happens in my pubs too, to be honest, where some guys like, let's go die, This happens. I mean, the Slark dive was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. But the other, like the Pudge, he's 25 Pudge, he's gonna be a psycho, I don't know about this.
That's true. That's a good metric to base.
But I don't know about the Slark. The Slark was, yeah.
So what, that's like a pretty, I feel like some of those images are pretty standard, where we see like 4 or 5 people with completely normal items, and then we see a Prophet with a Yasha, we see a Shadow Shaman with Shadow Blade and 4 open inventory slots, no wards or a stick or literally anything.
What server is this? Can you say that?
I believe it's NA. I can't say with
It's
100%
NA?
certainty.
Okay.
So
I have a pretty good idea, I think.
okay.
I know what I want to say, but I don't know what the order should
Yeah,
be.
I was gonna say, you know, maybe on an honor code we could write it down, but let's just trust that your answer is not gonna be changed by the other guy's answer. Okay.
I know what I'm gonna say.
Okay. What? Okay.
I
Monkeys first, and then Crit, and give a brief
right,
explanation.
All right, I'm gonna say 2.7K.
Okay.
The double mech was sketchy on Radiant, and also there was they stacked Shackles and Dismember on the Ross and Pudge. So you know, and all of the other item builds included, I'm gonna go with a solid like 2.7K, and the dives and everything. You know, not too much self-awareness. That's my guess.
What about you, Crit?
I think this is a solid like 3.5k, maybe 4k,
Okay.
somewhere there.
Okay. So we got Twitch. I'm looking at Twitch chat. We're seeing some like 2Ks. We're seeing some 1Ks. And I'm going to tell you guys, you guys give them a little bit too much credit. This is a 1.5K average MMR game.
How do these guys buy these items? They must have been coached by somebody genius.
Yeah, actually, the Drow is a student of mine. No, I'm kidding. He just only had some of the remotely normal items. So yeah, these type of games, I've realized that at the low MMRs, it's so inconsistent. Even at 3K, by the way, I've seen games like this where you like some people. I'm like, yeah, that guy's build makes sense. Yeah, this guy's owning. Like, that looks pretty standard. And then suddenly you just look at the Shaman or the Yasha on Nature's Prophet. It's like,
I mean, I just don't think it's like, I don't think it's that weird. Like, I could see some, like, I'm pretty sure I could play with like a top 1000 in Europe, Nature's Prophet, and he'll think like this is a Manta game. Like, that could happen. Like, I would not be surprised. I would be like, what are you doing? But like, I would not be surprised. Like, yeah. I mean, I guess the difference between brains is not that big in MMR. Like,
there you go. Hey, man. At the end of the day, I think the lower MMRs are slowly getting like more competent. Like, as long as players either look at YouTube or Twitch or something, they usually have access to like somewhat normal item builds and skill builds and stuff. Thanks for doing that with us. I honestly, that's it for me. Monkeys, you got any final questions? Crit, final comments?
I'm good.
Awesome.
I don't think so.
Yeah, you've talked a lot, Crit.
Just happy that Crit came on. You know, it actually was super interesting hearing your thoughts on everything.
Yeah, stop sucking up to our guest monkeys. I haven't been doing that at all. So yeah, Crit, thank you, man, for coming on. We really do appreciate it. And
yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll be seeing you around, man. Yeah, have a good one.
All right, bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.